Hey, hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jesse, and today I'm going to be starting a reading vlog where I read BookTuber's best books of 2023. This is my last 2023 video, I promise. After this video is posted, we're leaving 2023 in the past and we're moving on, finally, into the year of 2024. I just wrapped filming the video where I read BookTuber's worst books of 2023, and it's only fair that I read BookTuber's best books of 2023. So that's what's going to be going down in today's vlog. You guys have chosen the BookTubers for me. I posted a community post saying I was going to be reading BookTuber's worst and best books of 2023 and asked you guys to submit BookTubers for this video. I put all of their usernames in this mug and I'll be selecting them at random. Let's find out who the first BookTuber will be. I choose you. Oh, there's a lot. I'm gonna like shake it until we get the one. Okay, we got the one. Who's it gonna be? Haley Pham! Okay. That's actually really exciting because I really enjoy her content. I feel like it's very inventive and I'm excited to read one of her favorite books. Though there is always the fear in doing this video that I'm going to like hate the book that I picked from the BookTuber's best book, and that is always uncomfortable, but like, I'm going in with an open mind and hoping for the best here, okay? I'm gonna scroll through her best books of 2023 video. I'm not gonna watch it fully just so like I don't get her thoughts in my head. I wanna go into this book without any expectations, and I will come back and report to you which book I have chosen off her list. Hopefully it's a book that I own. If not, library, here I come. Okay, I scrolled through her video and tried to find a book that I haven't read yet. There were a couple on her list that I have read and loved, so that was very exciting to see. Unfortunately, I do not own any of the books on her list that I haven't read yet. Editing Jesse has arrived because when I first filmed this clip, I didn't even mention the book that I picked from her list. What a rookie mistake. The book that I picked from her list is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston, and the library did not have any copies available. So I am going to have to buy a book, which is okay. I am on a book buying ban right now, but I have earned a book recently because I unhauled 2 books, which means I can bring in another book. If you don't know how my book buying ban is, I have to read 3 books in order to buy 1 book, or I have to unhaul 2 books in order to bring in a book. But I've been slowly working through my collection and getting rid of books, so I will be able to go out and buy The 7-Year Slip. I read The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston last year and I freaking loved it, so I'm excited to get around to this one. This one I don't know too much about though. Like, I think it has a time travel, time loop element involved in it, but I will update you guys when I start reading and I know more. I've got a lot planned this weekend. I'm going out of town. I'm going to Arkansas to help celebrate my friend Darian's 30th birthday, which I'm super excited about. Next week I'm going to New York. I'm basically like getting back from Arkansas. Then I'll have 3 days here and then I'm turning around and running away to New York. So I've got a lot going on. It will be an exciting vlog, and without further ado, let's get started. Let's get to reading. I gotta go get the book first though. Barnes & Noble, here I come.
Old days, I used to think I'm the problem, that I was way too sensitive, reacting way too much, until I realized we were different types, carrying a different triggers, scaring us to death. Oh, someday we will collide someplace where we can hide our space. Forget the world outside, just for a while. Some way we will be fine, safe place, just you and I, always. I will wait for us to collide. I'll wait.
Are we surprised at all that I found 0 time to read this past weekend? I didn't really have a lot of free time, and when I did have like pockets of time, I was exhausted. My social battery was 8 up, so during those moments of free time, I was like resting as best as I could. But I'm exhausted from the weekend still, and it's been 2 days since the trip. But in those 2 days, I have made a decent amount of progress in The 7-Year Slip. I've made it to chapter 26, page 202. I am enjoying every bit of this book so far. I'm not that surprised that I am, honestly, because I've loved a lot of Ashley Poston's books in the past. I've not read every single book by her. She's only had 1 book that has been a bit of a miss for me, and that was Bookish and the Beast. I think that's what it's called. The third book in the Geekerella trilogy. That was the only book by her that I've read that I felt was kind of on the mid side of things. This one is very reminiscent of the Dead Romantics in my opinion. Like, it has so many overlapping themes. We've also got like so many overlapping environments. This book has its foot in the publishing world, and the Dead Romantics has its foot in the publishing world. This book has a bit of a magical element in it. The Dead Romantics has a bit of a magical element in it. And then there's like also the overlapping theme of grief. We explore grief in the Dead Romantics, and we're exploring grief in here as our main character is kind of facing her feelings towards her aunt passing away. She has a very special relationship with her aunt, and it like shattered her world when her aunt passed away. I just said aunt, 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 aunt. I typically say aunt, so I'm just gonna say aunt. Which I don't mind that there are so many overlapping elements. I almost feel like it was a little bit on the intentional side of things. Like, I think that the author meant to do that. I feel like I would find issue with it if the author just like kept writing books in this same lane with like similar elements that feel recycled. This one doesn't feel like super recycled. It's just like has a lot of elements that the Dead Romantics has, and I feel like we're exploring definitely a different lane for sure. The story doesn't feel like too similar. If it was too similar, I would be a little concerned, but it's definitely like carving its own path, but also using elements that we've seen in the Dead Romantics. It's like the Dead Romantics, but in a different font, and I'm not mad at it. I really love seeing the relationship of the aunt and Clementine, our main character, and how it kind of was connected through the idea of stories and how they just really bonded over that, and then just like from that grew this like really special bond. Like, I adore that. And it's so like relatable seeing Clementine's own experience with grief and how it just like completely uprooted her life, and she just struggles to like carry on as if everything's okay. And I also really enjoy the publishing element within the story. Clementine has been, oh, it just got so bright. We're gonna bring that brightness down, baby. We're bringing it down. I'm really enjoying the way it's using time and how it's playing around with time. I am a big fan of books that have kind of like a time travel element or like a time loop element, and to see that be explored in here is really enjoyable for me, and I feel like the author is doing a pretty decent job with it. I am nervous about where it's going to go because I don't necessarily foresee a happy ending in sight, but like I feel like it's probably going to try and carve out a happy ending, so I am eager to see how things wrap up. It's not like a 5-star read for me yet, but I feel like it could be, so we will see. We will see. My goal is to finish this book this evening, which I feel like is doable, and then come back and share my thoughts with you in the morning. I'm gonna try to begin packing this evening for my next trip. I'm leaving in a few days for New York, so I'm literally turning around from one trip and going to the next, which is a little bit on the stressful side of things. I don't do well with like time constraints like that, because I have a lot to get done between now and then, but I have no regrets because this past weekend was so valuable for me, just spending time with my friends. I don't get to see this group of friends that often because we live all over the place. Like, we live in Arizona, we live in Florida, we live in Arkansas, we live in Missouri, and so to have the chance to like come together, it was just like such a beautiful moment, a beautiful time, and I'm very grateful for it. I will say I did injure myself this weekend. I fully fell on my back and embarrassed myself on this Ninja Warrior track. I've done it several times in the past, and there's always this point at the very end where I mess up or I just like don't feel like I can do it. And I've been trying and trying and trying to accomplish this last part in the course, but I never get it right. And this time I fully jumped and tried to grab the ropes with these gloves because I thought that the gloves would kind of like, I don't know, like help with the grabbing of the rope. Did not help at all. I slipped and fell on my back and it was embarrassing. It hurt like crap. I'm surprisingly like not sore at all. I had like a slight pain yesterday, but thankfully today I'm feeling so much better, which makes me very happy. Because I was afraid, I honestly was afraid that it was gonna be a lot worse than what it was because it hurt in the moment. I feel like the video does not look that bad, but like I felt something pop. Yeah, I'm glad that I had no pain. I picked up some items over the weekend, so I'm gonna share with you. The first thing I'm so excited about, we went to this boba shop and got some boba, of course, and I almost had a stroke when I saw This little one right here, another little boba frog. I had to have him. I had to adopt him because I have his parent right here. I had no idea that this was like a collection. Like, try not to like overconsume the boba frogs, but like, I just thought this little guy was so cute because he's actually sipping boba, and it smells, honestly, it doesn't smell that great, but it's supposed to smell like brown sugar milk tea, and it slightly does, but like more on the perfume side of brown sugar milk tea, so not the best. And it's a very strong scent, so I'm gonna stop sniffing it. That was the first thing I got. Then we went to a few bookstores, and I am on a book buying ban, so I feel like when I go into a bookstore now, instead of buying books, I will find like little trinkets, little bits and bobs to pick up and buy instead of buying books. So I got some bookish washi tape, which I'm really excited about. This one is like a rainbow books washi tape, and then this one is just ruby books. I just thought that they were really cute, and I had to have them, so I got them. And the next one is like hard to tell which animal it is, but it looks to be a toad carrying a bunch of books, and I just thought it was super cute and cozy. And it looks like one of the characters from the Frog and Toad books, so I had to have it. I don't have too much going on this evening, so I am going to try to just like devote my time to reading this book. I am going to attempt to start packing this evening, but we will see how that goes. I tend to be the type of person that just like packs last minute, so I probably will not pack till tomorrow evening. I'll catch you guys on the flip side. I finished the book, and again, Ashley Poston has come through with another banger. I feel like I'm leaving this book feeling like it's the ultimate comfort read, and yet there are moments throughout this book that just like really tug at your heartstrings, and I love when a book can do that. I love when a book can just like have you drenched in feelings, and that's exactly how I'm leaving this book. Like, I am feeling a lot of things right now, a lot of emotions, a mix of happiness and sadness. One, because the book itself just like lends to that like sort of happy-go-lucky feeling, but it also brings in elements that just, again, tug at the heartstrings. They tug, tug, tug. Something that I really love about this book, and something that I often look for when it comes to romance books, is the fact that like it's more than a romance. There are so many other elements coming through, and it just does not drown in being a romance book. It's not solely focused on the relationship. There are so many other things happening. Clementine herself, yes, the main character's name is ridiculous, Clementine, but I love her. I feel like she's on such a relatable life journey. I feel like she is really kind of discovering her path. She's had this kind of life-changing event occur in her life, that being her aunt passing away, and she is just kind of trying to figure out what her life looks like now and what her next move is and what's the most important thing for her. And just like reading that was just so relatable. I just loved following that journey. I feel like we've all been in a place, or are in a place, where we are just like figuring out what we want our lives to look like, and it's nice to like have characters that are also going through that and seeing them stumble and fall, but get back up and pick up the pieces and try again. Because of this speculative twist, the relationship falls into a bit of a complicated place. I will admit that the formation of the relationship was a little bit on the rush side for me, but it wasn't like an unbearable insta-love situation. It definitely was fast though. A little too fast for my liking, but I'm gonna overlook it. I'm closing my eyes. It's not there. It doesn't exist. I feel like the only thing that I can think of that would really benefit this book is having two perspectives and having the chance to be inside of Ewan's head. But I also understand why we only got Clementine's perspective and why we were just following her journey. It makes sense while you're reading it, but I feel like having Ewan's perspective could have just like leveled up this novel a little bit more. There were also elements of the breaking of time that didn't necessarily click with me and didn't really make sense, but because this is speculative fiction, I just kind of was able to suspend my disbelief a little bit. I feel like had this been like a full-on sci-fi novel, a full-on fantasy novel, I would expect that. I would expect to have the formulas, to expect to have things like that be explained, but I was able to just be like, okay, I'm along for the ride, I'm gonna go with it, and just let go of all my questions. I really liked this book, and I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. I'm gonna go watch Haley's video now and come back and compare our thoughts. And we're back. I feel like Haley and I had very similar feelings. I also feel like she did a fantastic job of just like describing Ashley Poston's writing style. I literally wrote down the quote. She says, "Every single word choice made in this book makes it so sunny, bright, and happy, and just sweet and cute and heart-wrenching." And like, that's the best way you can describe Ashley Poston's writing style. Like, she nailed it in describing Ashley Poston's writing style. It's just like the most warm and comforting and heart-wrenching writing style ever, and I love it. It's just so, oh, it just makes me so happy. Like, I love her writing style. I don't think I could ever be in a bad mood reading a book by this author. I feel like even if the story itself was like really boring and I didn't care for it, I would still be having a good time because of the writing style alone. And then the other thing that she said is that it's one of the most unique romance stories that she's ever read. And to that, I agree. I feel like this book is just like very inventive and very unique. I feel like the time element itself just brings something so fresh to this genre, and I loved it. I loved it so much. Thank you to Haley for pushing me to pick this book up and read it. I really enjoyed it, and I'm happy to have another hit from Ashley Poston. Since I'm going out of town tomorrow, I'm going to be picking out the next 2 booktubers that I will be reading from for this video, and I'm really hoping that the booktubers I pick, I own books that they have read in 2023 that they consider favorites, because otherwise I'm going to have to go out and buy some books. I don't feel comfortable like checking out books from the library and traveling with them because they're not my books or the library's books. Anyway, let's find out the next booktubers. First up, whoa, just flung out somebody. We've got Katie is reading, a new to me booktuber. A lot of you guys recommended her to me recently, and so I'm excited to read one of her favorite books. That way I can kind of get to know her style, get to know what she loves. And the last booktuber that I will be reading from is this one. Who are you? We've got Elliot Brooks. I love Elliot's videos. I feel like I've got a fantasy read on the horizon, and I'm not mad at that. I'm gonna go scan through their best books of 2023 video. I'm not gonna fully watch it. That way I don't get their thoughts entangled with my own thoughts. That way I can form my own opinions and not have their opinions cloud my own. And I will come back and share with you the books that I've chosen from their list. Let's go. I scored. I'm so happy because they both have books on their list that I already own, so I don't have to run out to the bookstore and buy any books. I'm very, very happy. So for Katie is reading, I chose Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I'm actually reading this for another video, so I don't know if that's like cheating to read this for 2 videos, but like, call me a cheater, okay? Anyway, I've been wanting to read this for the longest time. I've been wanting to kind of delve into the world of cozy fantasy as it is, and I just feel like I'm going to adore this book as well, which is why I'm super excited to be reading it. In it, we are following Emily Wilde. Shocker, a book titled Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies follows a character named Emily Wilde, who would have thought, but in it she is basically putting together this encyclopedia of fairies, which is also in the title, and she goes to this small town in order to do some research. And she's really not a people person. She doesn't really enjoy like conversing with the townsfolk. And there's this other guy that appears on the island, this guy named Wendell, who is doing research of his own, and it's clear that this is going to be like a rivals to lovers situation, but I may or may not be a fan of that trope, so I can't be too mad, but I'm super excited to be reading this one. And then from Elliot Brooks' video, which she also had Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies on her list, which is exciting. But from Elliot's list, I picked up The Wishing Game. This is a book that I've been wanting to read for so long, you have no idea. Ever since I first heard about the concept around this book, I was so excited. It's basically like Willy Wonka, but with books replacing the candy. In it, we have this mega best-selling author who at one point disappeared, but now they're back and they have a new book, and they are hosting a competition. The winner of the competition will have their life changed forever. Does that just not sound like so magical and so like warm and fuzzy? That's the best way I can put it. Warm and fuzzy. I'm super excited for this one. I'm so glad it was on Elliot's list, and I'm really looking forward to reading both of these books. So over the next few days, I'll be reading these books, hopefully on my travels. I don't do the best when it comes to reading and traveling, and yet I'm bringing so many books with me on this trip. It'll be fine. It'll be great. I'll manage to make time for reading. I really feel like I'll be able to read a lot on this trip, so that's why I'm bringing so many books. But it's gonna be great. It's gonna be grand. I'm gonna first be tackling Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, so I will keep you guys updated on my thoughts throughout the reading process.
Sweet, sweet, sweet.
microphone at home, so the audio might not be the best, but I got 130 pages into Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and so far, so good. So far, I'm really enjoying it. I'm having a really good time reading this book. Truthfully, exceeding my expectations at this point. I feel like this book received a lot of like buzz and a lot of hype, and I was really excited about it when it first came out. I was like, oh, this description sounds amazing. But then, like, I just have a hard time when a book like explodes overnight. It just kind of goes down my TBR instead of up my TBR. And that's mostly because it just like affects my expectations of a book. Like if it's getting crazy hype, then like I'm going to go into a book with unfair expectations, you know? So I've had to like let them settle a little bit. Because it's cozy fantasy, I did have those expectations going into it, that it was gonna like be kind of like a slower moving story. There wasn't gonna be a lot going on. So it's been nice to kind of uncover this story on my own and figure out kind of the appeal of it. And I do feel like I'm uncovering the appeal. One is the characters. I really enjoy the characters. I really like all their personalities. The banter between Emily and Wendell is fantastic. They have so many great moments so far, and just like their rivalry is like so fun to read about, even though like you know that they're probably going to end up together, they're probably going to end up in like the love boat situation. It's still just like fun reading their banter, their back and forth, because they really, well, I feel like their rivalry is like really, it's not necessarily that it's one-sided, but I feel like Emily gets so aggravated with Wendell, and that's just like really fun to read about. And he like enjoys pushing her buttons. Like he loves like pushing her to the limit and seeing her reaction. Like that's the kind of situation we're in with these two. My favorite parts of this book so far though have just been like when Emily herself is on the field encountering the fairies. I also just like love all the explorations of the fairies and getting to learn like the different types of the fairies, because we get to like really dig deep and like explore different types of fairies, and I really appreciate that. The story does work in one of my biggest pet peeves, and that is footnotes, but I feel like they're becoming less and less the more that I read. Plus, it really helps that I am listening to the audiobook while I'm reading this book, because it just like makes it less distracting of a situation to have to go and read the footnotes. I have somebody reading them to me, and it just makes things a lot easier. There is something about this that feels reminiscent of the Spiderwick Chronicles, and I'm really enjoying that. Obviously, like they're so different. This is an adult book, that's a middle grade book, but there's just like elements woven in here that just feel so similar, and I almost feel like it's when Emily herself is like interacting with the fairies. Like it reminds me of the kids in the Spiderwick Chronicles interacting with the different creatures that they come across, and I love that. I love that kind of like exploration and learning about just like a whole new world. That's just like so fun for me. It's also just making me want to reread the Spiderwick Chronicles, but also to like have somebody write an adult version of the Spiderwick Chronicles. Like I need that in my life ASAP. I'm excited to keep reading. I'm definitely planning to possibly finish tonight. It's not a super long book, so I feel like I have the chance to kind of make a decent dent in it this evening, but I'll keep you guys updated. I'm getting ready to get out of here for the day and go get some fresh air, get some steps in, and I think I'm gonna stop by a little bookstore, so I'm looking forward to that. Finished Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and honestly with the first chunk of the book, I was kind of leaning towards a 4-star rating, but the deeper I got in, and more so like the last chunk of the book, it kind of like swayed my decision, which I'm not giving it like a super low rating. Overall, I really enjoyed this book, but I am landing on like a 3.5-star rating. I just did not love like where the book went. Like I feel like the last little bit of the book just kind of went kaboom, and it just kind of veered off from what it like originally set out to do, or at least what my original expectations were. Maybe it's more so on me and my expectations. I felt like it sort of shed its coziness and started to delve into a much more chaotic, adventurous place, which was fine, and it wasn't like bad necessarily, but I think because I went in just expecting it to be like cozy, I was a little bit taken aback by that. It was just hard for me to shed my own expectations because I went in thinking it was like this specific thing. I went in with those expectations. It's not the book's fault. I did not meet the book where it was at. I think had it stayed more in that kind of like curiosity lane where Emily herself is going out on the field and doing research on the fairies, I feel like I would have liked it so much more, which I know does not sound like the most exciting thing, but to me, that sounds magical. Like, I loved the moments where we were on the field with Emily and she's researching the fairies, she's interacting with the fairies, she's luring them out. Like, those were the parts that just made this book stand out to me. Honestly, I think if that's what this book remained to be, where it's just like Emily out there interacting with fairies, this would have been a 5 out of 5 star read. Again, I don't think it's like that interesting of a concept, but like, I just love those moments. Those were some of my favorite moments within the book, and I think it would have been a 5-star read had it remained in that lane. But because it just like veers off into a completely different place and just kind of has things happen that feel a little bit out of left field and also just feel a little bit unnecessary, I did have to like mark it down a few stars. I will say I was surprised to find that I really loved the slower paced vibes that this book delivers. I really enjoyed how it really takes its time to develop things. It's not in a rush. It's not trying to like get through the story as fast as possible. Like, it's just there to kind of just grow on its own and not feel the need to just like rush through things. And I just really appreciated that. And I think the pacing itself is what lends this book into falling into sort of like a calm, cozy place. In general, I just loved the fairy element of the book and all the little tales that were woven into the story. I also loved the journal approach to the story structure. I think that that was really unique and really fun. Those were the elements that really had my heart and really had me enjoying this book. I did really like it, and I'm definitely going to be continuing on with the series, and it has me excited to try out more cozy fantasy stories. Though I do hope that the other cozy books that I read kind of more so maintain that coziness. I'm now going to compare my thoughts to Katie's. I'm going to go watch her video and then I will come back and compare our thoughts. Honestly, I feel like everything Katie said I agreed with. She didn't touch on any of my like complaints with the book, but let's go over her thoughts. She highlighted the dynamic between Emily and Wendell and titled them as like a grumpy sunshine situation. She mentions the fact that most times during that like grumpy sunshine relationship, the grumpy one is the guy and the sunshine one is the girl, but in this scenario, like, Emily is the grumpy one and Wendell is the sunshine, which is the perfect way to put it. And I love that the author did take that kind of like grumpy sunshine trope, if you will, and kind of flipped it on its head and played around with it. I really liked that unique quality. I feel like they just like really make this book, like they kind of carry it on their backs and I love them. I feel like I wouldn't have loved it as much had we not been following Wendell and Emily. I honestly could read their back and forth all day, every day and not be tired of it. She loved the depiction of the Fae in the story. I agree. As I mentioned, the Fae element within this book was one of my favorites, which actually is something that I wanted to mention in my talking about this book, is that I would love to see this author just do a bunch of Fae short stories. Like, I was eating up the little short stories that were woven throughout this book. Like, that was one of my favorite parts. So would love to see this author drop like an anthology solely focused on fairies. I would love that. One of her last points that she mentioned is that she loved the scenery and sort of the peaceful vibes it delivered, and I agree. I feel like it definitely lended to that kind of cozy atmosphere. For the most part, we agree. I don't think it's going to end up on my best books of 2024 list, but I still really enjoyed it and I'm excited to keep reading this series. The next and final book that I'll be reading for this video is one that I'm so excited for. It's one that I've been wanting to read for the longest time, and that is The Wishing Game. This book came from Elliot Brooks' Best Books of 2023 video, and I'm so glad that this book was on her list because it's one that I've been wanting to read for the longest time. So the fact that this video is like forcing me to read it, I'm here for it. I'm so happy about it. This book is basically Willy Wonka meets books without the chocolate, without the candy. Like, replace the chocolate and the candy with the books. We've got this best-selling author who at one point disappeared, and then they came back and they've got a new book and a competition, and the winner of the competition will have their life changed forever. So I just feel like this concept sounds so amazing, and I'll be so disappointed if it does not live up to my expectations, which I know that I should like try to lower my expectations for this book, but like I just can't help myself. Like, my expectations are through the roof. I'm so excited about it. I feel like regardless of how I feel about the story as a whole, I feel like I'll still have a fun time reading this book, because the one thing that I've seen people say about this book is that it's just an all-around good time, and like, I'm here for that. If that's all it delivers, I will take it. But I'm excited to read this one. I feel like it's supposed to rain later, so I don't think I'm going to be getting out much today, if at all. I'm going to be fully diving into this book and devoting the rest of my day to it. So I'll keep you guys updated along the journey. back with an update. I've pretty much been reading the whole evening. I did take a break and go on a walk before the rain came, and then I also took a break for dinner. But for the most part, I've been hooked on this book because it's so addicting. I am quite literally obsessed with this book. I definitely understand the appeal. I understood the appeal like right at the beginning. Like I was like, this book is going to be everything, and so far it is really, really good. I do have like one complaint, but for the most part, it's been just like the most wholesome thing ever. It's just giving me like such a warm feeling. Like it feels like one of those books, it's like a warm hug almost. Like you're reading it and you're just like feeling so good. And I love when a book like makes you feel that way. Like when you're just like infected with a good feeling, like I love that. If I'm gonna be infected, it better be with a good feeling. It better be with a good time. It is very much so following a sort of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory style format. There are some different elements woven into it, obviously. Like it is its own thing. Like it's an author who's holding a competition, and even like the competition element itself is different. There are these readers who have been invited to this island and they're competing, and like that element alone like makes it its own thing and like carves out its own path under a similar structure. But there are definitely like elements popping up where it's like, oh, that feels like a direct nod to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Also, all the characters are adults, so that makes it different in and of itself. We're mainly following Lucy. We do get to see bits of other perspectives. Like we see a bit of Hugo's perspective. Hugo is the artist who did the illustrations for the author's book covers. And then we also get to see bits of Jack, who is the author. But Lucy is the main person that we are following, and she has been going through some hardships and she could really use this win. And the author himself, like the reason he's holding this competition is because he wants one of his readers to win and then go on to sell the book and make some money in order to like support themselves. And Lucy could really use some money. She's been struggling financially, and she has this dream to adopt this kid that she's been helping take care of named Christopher. And the only way that she can really make that happen is if she does in fact win this competition. I love the author who is holding the competition. Like he's very wacky and he just feels like the type of person that just like is down for a good time. He remembers meeting each of the contestants for the first time because this is not his first time meeting them. And the reason they're even involved in the competition is because at one point they came to him when they were facing some kind of hardship when they were kids. There's that saying where it's like, don't meet your idols because they'll disappoint you. But I feel like if he was my favorite author, I'd be desperate to meet him. I feel like he'd be the type of person that would like meet your expectations. My only complaint with this book so far is that I don't love the romance that it's trying to carve out. It just feels like really out of place and a little bit on the unnecessary side. Like I just don't feel like it's adding that much to the story, and I also just like feel like iffy about it as a whole. Outside of that though, I have no complaints, and I'm eager to get back into it and just like finish it because I'm really loving it. I'm really, really loving it. I'm excited to see how things come to a close. I will keep you guys updated. I'm probably going to be finishing it tomorrow morning, so I'll update you tomorrow morning. I keep having to try and find unique places to film where I'm staying in New York because I don't have a tripod, so I'm just using whatever I can as a tripod. So I currently have you guys on a stack of books. It's really sturdy. It's really working out. Anyway, I finished The Wishing Game and I really freaking love this book. I feel like it was just like so charming and just so warm and just like made me feel so happy. I do have some complaints because of course I'm like overly critical and I can't just like enjoy things. No, I can enjoy things and still be critical of them, but I'm ending up on a 4.5 star rating. My main complaint is that the romance just felt so unnecessary. I did not like it at all. I felt like it just was like out of place and didn't make sense. Like it just, there was no point to it in my opinion, in my personal opinion. Like it just felt like it was trying to add another layer to the story, but like I didn't need that other layer. Like I didn't need a romance to happen, and I'm a little frustrated by that element alone. But like outside of that, everything else I loved about this book. Everything else worked so well and it just made me feel so good. It's one of those books where it's like I have a hard time understanding leaving this book not feeling like happy. Like it just is an explosion of happiness. I went ahead and watched Elliot's video and she basically had the same things to say that I did. She basically said it's so wholesome, so sweet, so heartbreaking. Yes, all of the above. That is basically this book to a T. If you are looking to have all those same feelings, I definitely recommend checking out The Wishing Game. I, again, don't think it's a perfect read, but I really enjoyed it. The only downfall for me was the romance itself. It just didn't need to happen. Just didn't need to happen, and I'm tired of books just feeling like They have to have a romance element. You don't have to have a romance element. It's really easy to not have a romance. Anyway, overall, I really enjoyed it, and I'm so glad that I finally got the chance to read it. So thank you, Elliot, for having this as a favorite book so that I was able to finally prioritize reading it. That wraps up this video. I had a really good time reading these books and reading BookTuber's favorite books. I honestly feel like they all hit in different ways. I might not be leaving this video with a 5-star read, but I still really enjoyed all of these books, and I have no regrets. I think if I were to have to rank these books, my all-time favorite from this video was The Wishing Game. Then I would say The 7-Year Slip, and finally we've got Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. These were all really fun to read, and these were books that I've been wanting to read for a long time now, so I'm glad that these booktubers had them on their favorites list so that I was able to finally make time for them. I will be leaving links down below in the description to their channels, even though I'm sure you're familiar with most of them, but definitely go and check them out and show them some love. This is the end of my 2023 video streak. I'm going to be leaving 2023 behind. Sorry for dragging it out for 2 months. That was not my intention. That was not what I set out to do, but you know, things happen, and that's what happened. But I hope that you enjoyed all my 2023 book experiment videos. I'm definitely excited to be tackling some more book experiment videos in the future. I want to hear from you guys down below in the comments. Have you read any of the books that I mentioned in this video? And if you have, what are your thoughts on them? Did you love them? Did you hate them? I'm always open to hearing opposing opinions, so drop all your thoughts down below in the comments. And if you haven't read any of these books and you don't have any thoughts, then just drop a booktuber recommendation for me down below in the comments. I've been trying to subscribe to more booktubers lately and try to just like fill up my feed with new booktubers, so drop me a recommendation down below in the comments. If you like this video, be sure to go and hit that like button. If you want to see more bookish content from me, be sure to go and hit subscribe or go and hit that bell icon and you'll be notified every time I post new videos. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope your day is bright, that tomorrow is brighter. Keep reading what your heart desires, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye-o. That was a bad bio. I'm sorry, I'm a failure.